If you're a diehard Browns fan and love breaking down the game like we do, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a blitz. The buzz around Cleveland this week isn't just about the loss itself, but about what it represents. Because let's be honest, for a fan base that's been dragged through decades of false dawns, draft busts, and coaches who came and went before their coffee even got cold, Week 1 has turned into a graveyard of hope, and the numbers back it up in painful detail. With Darrell Reuter's stat hitting like a gut punch when he reminded everyone that this was the 23rd time since 1999 that the Browns opened their season with a loss. And that's not just a coincidence or bad luck. It feels like a curse, like a cloud hanging over this franchise from the moment it was resurrected, and fans know it. Because even when the roster looks talented, even when the hype builds up, even when analysts say this might finally be the year, that opening whistle rings and history creeps in, whispering reminders of heartbreak. And this is where narratives get dangerous, because a team that already carries so much weight on its back doesn't need another ghost to chase. Yet here we are, talking once again about Cleveland finding themselves 0-1, and wondering if déjà vu has already set the tone. But here's the twist that complicates everything and makes this loss so maddening for Browns fans. The team didn't actually play a bad game. In fact, large stretches of the performance suggested a group capable of making real noise this season, because the defense was sharp, fast, aggressive, and downright suffocating in the second half. And Joe Flacco, the veteran quarterback who was supposed to be more of a placeholder than a savior, looked poised and in control, delivering throws that gave the Browns a real chance to steal momentum. And yet when you peel back the layers, when you go beyond the highlight reel, what stands out are those small moments that ended up flipping the entire script, particularly the turnovers that weren't really on the quarterback, but on the receivers who failed to secure the ball. And that kind of detail matters, because when the game comes down to a handful of possessions, those slips, those mental lapses, become magnified, and fans are left wondering how different things might look if just one of those plays had swung the other way, especially considering the energy this team showed on defense. Still, no matter how you slice it, this loss circles back to the kicking game, because that's the elephant in the room nobody can ignore, and it's been that way in Cleveland for years, as if the franchise is forever cursed to search for stability at a position that other teams seem to take for granted. And while Andre Etienne is young and talented, the optics of him missing those kicks in such a tight game triggered flashbacks of Cade York's inconsistency, Dustin Hopkins' roller coaster reliability, and all the countless names who came before them. And that's the thing with the Browns. They can't afford to let the kicking situation spiral into another saga, because in a division as competitive as the AFC North, where games routinely come down to one score, one possession, one play, a missed kick isn't just a footnote. It's a season-altering detail, and the coaching staff knows it, the locker room feels it, and the fan base is already bracing for another year of heartache if changes aren't made quickly, because patience has worn thin, and nobody wants to watch yet another campaign derailed by something as basic as a field goal. What makes this entire narrative even more frustrating is how much optimism surrounded the Browns heading into this season. With expectations that the defense could finally become elite, the offense had enough weapons to compete, and the coaching staff had matured enough to avoid the game management blunders that haunted previous years, and all of that still might be true, because the roster isn't suddenly flawed just because of one loss. But the danger of dropping a winnable opener is psychological, not just statistical, because teams begin to hear the whispers, the media starts digging into the patterns, and players get asked over and over again why Cleveland always seems to stumble out of the gate. And that kind of chatter can wear down confidence, especially in a locker room that's desperately trying to shed its reputation. And that's why Week 1 isn't just a blip on the radar. It's a reminder of the uphill climb ahead, a climb that feels heavier because of all the history attached to it. And even though it's still early, the Browns are already forced to confront questions about their resilience, their preparation, and their ability to finally flip the script. There's also a deeper layer to this conversation, and it's about culture, because for too long the Browns have lived in cycles of false hope, moments where fans convince themselves that a new coach, a new quarterback, or a shiny free agent is the missing piece, only to watch the same mistakes unfold in slightly different packaging. And this Week 1 loss, as minor as it might look in the grand scheme, feeds into that culture of doubt, where every missed kick feels like destiny, every turnover feels like a pattern, and every stat that gets thrown around on social media feels like an anchor dragging the team backward. And until Cleveland proves it can consistently shake off these narratives, until it can turn a sloppy start into a learning moment rather than the first domino in another disappointing season, fans will keep bracing themselves for the worst because they've been conditioned to expect it. And that conditioning becomes part of the story, influencing the way the league views them, the way opponents approach them, and the way players carry the pressure of wearing that uniform. So when you say just one loss in Cleveland, it never really is just one. And yet, in the middle of all this doom and gloom, there are reasons to believe this team can turn it around. Because when you break down the film, you see a defense that didn't just look good, it looked dominant, with players flying around, shutting down lanes, and creating a physical identity that could be the backbone of the season, and with Flacco showing that he can still deliver when needed, plus an offensive line that held its own against a tough pass rush. There's a foundation here that can absolutely compete in the AFC North. But the key is whether the Browns can take this punch to the chin and bounce back. Because the NFL is as much about psychology as it is about talent. And if they let the ghosts of Week 1 hang over them, if they let the narrative of "here we go again" seep into the locker room, then the season risks unraveling before it even has a chance to get rolling. So the challenge now is mental toughness, proving to themselves and to the league that one loss doesn't define them, and that this time, finally, the story can be different. Ultimately, the noise around Cleveland right now isn't about X's and O's. It's about perception, about whether the Browns can shake off the idea that Week 1 is always their downfall. And while fans are justified in their frustration after seeing history repeat itself yet again, the truth is the season is long, the opportunities are still plentiful, and this roster is talented enough to make a run if it can correct the details that cost them this opener. But that correction needs to start immediately, with the coaching staff taking a hard look at special teams, the receivers holding themselves accountable, and the veterans in the locker room stepping up to steady the ship. Because what Cleveland can't afford is to let a winnable game turn into a lingering shadow that defines the year. And that's the razor's edge the Browns always seem to live on, where one point here, one missed kick there, one turnover at the wrong moment, can tilt everything. And unless they find a way to rewrite the script, unless they finally prove that the ghosts don't control them anymore, the narrative will stay the same, the whispers will grow louder, and Week 1 will once again be remembered not as a game, but as a symbol of everything Cleveland has been trying to outrun. Enjoying the content so far? Smash that like button and drop your take in the comments. We want to hear what you think about the Browns this season. The sports world has been shaken to its core, with whispers growing louder across NFL circles about an unprecedented trade that could redefine the league's landscape for years to come. Rumors suggest that the Cleveland Browns and Cincinnati Bengals are in advanced discussions over a blockbuster deal involving quarterback Joe Burrow, a move that has already sent shockwaves through locker rooms, front offices, and the fan bases of both franchises. Sources hint that while details remain tightly held, the Browns are reportedly exploring multiple packages, including draft picks and key players, to secure one of the league's most talented signal callers. And insiders say Burrow himself is intrigued by the prospect of a new challenge in Cleveland, a city desperate to establish itself as a consistent contender. The murmurs began quietly, with scouts and agents sharing snippets at league events, but have now evolved into a full-blown frenzy, with sports talk shows dissecting every possible scenario and fans flooding social media with speculation about the impact this could have on the AFC North. Analysts are debating the fit, the potential chemistry with Cleveland's roster, and how this trade could shift the power balance in one of the most competitive divisions in football today, making this story impossible to ignore. Sources close to the Bengals organization have reportedly confirmed that internal discussions are ongoing, though the team remains publicly tight-lipped, emphasizing stability and future growth, while fans read between the lines of every press release. Insiders claim that the Bengals are weighing the long-term ramifications of moving a franchise quarterback who has delivered record-breaking performances and led the team deep into the playoffs, all while considering the financial implications and locker room dynamics. Meanwhile, whispers suggest that Burrow's camp has been quietly receptive to the idea, intrigued by the chance to lead a team like the Browns, who have struggled to find consistency under center, but boast a roster with untapped potential and a passionate fanbase eager for a transformational figure. Rumors indicate that the negotiation table is crowded with advisors, agents, and front office strategists, each analyzing countless permutations of player exchanges, salary cap maneuvers, and draft pick valuations, all designed to maximize value while minimizing risk. Sports media insiders are already speculating on potential ripple effects across the league, projecting which teams might benefit from secondary trades sparked by this primary blockbuster, and fans are creating mock lineups, debating whether this move could finally deliver a Super Bowl window for Cleveland or leave Cincinnati scrambling for answers. The tension and anticipation surrounding this trade rumor are reaching a fever pitch, capturing attention across the NFL landscape and beyond. The narrative unfolding suggests that if the deal were to materialize, it could mark one of the most audacious moves in modern NFL history, a trade that would immediately become the benchmark for high-stakes negotiations in professional football. Industry experts are highlighting the strategic brilliance required to pull off such a transaction, noting that acquiring a quarterback of Burrow's caliber is rarely a straightforward process and demands not only assets but vision, patience, and the ability to sell a bold narrative to stakeholders and fans alike. Meanwhile, fan communities on Reddit, Twitter, and Discord are exploding with debate, creating an ecosystem of speculation, memes, and hot takes that feed the frenzy, with each new leak or hint prompting waves of analysis, comparisons to historic trades, and predictions for the upcoming seasons. Rumor has it that the Browns front office is balancing excitement with caution, aware that a high-profile acquisition brings both opportunities and scrutiny, and that the pressure on Burrow would be immense, with expectations of immediate impact and leadership responsibility amplified by the media spotlight in a football-crazed market. The trade buzz is also inspiring hypothetical scenarios from commentators, imagining offensive schemes, receiver alignments, and quarterback-coach chemistry that could either propel the Browns into contention or backfire if mismanaged, making this story a magnet for football minds and enthusiasts eager for insider information. With the NFL community now collectively holding its breath for the next official announcement or denial. Industry insiders suggest that negotiations are reportedly progressing in phases, with each party carefully evaluating risk-reward dynamics, contractual clauses, and potential cap flexibility, while keeping communication channels discreet to avoid inflating public expectations prematurely. Sources close to the league hint that the Browns may be offering a combination of first-round picks, talented but replaceable players, and conditional incentives to sweeten the package, while the Bengals reportedly are seeking long-term stability, promising development assets, and protection for their broader organizational strategy, all while carefully managing Burrow's contractual situation. Observers note that the subtle choreography required in such a high-profile trade is immense, requiring diplomacy, timing, and a thorough understanding of each team's philosophy, player psychology, and fan sentiment. Meanwhile, Burrow's potential departure has ignited a cultural debate in Cincinnati, where supporters express shock, loyalty, and disbelief, while Cleveland fans are fueled with cautious optimism, weighing the reality of acquiring a quarterback capable of redefining their franchise's identity. The speculation has even extended to sports betting markets, where odds have begun to shift in response to these rumors, creating a palpable tension between hope and skepticism, with every small leak or confirmation transforming online discourse and turning what might have been a quiet offseason into a dramatic theater of football intrigue, analysis, and fervent conversation across multiple media platforms. Behind the scenes, sources suggest that both teams are engaging in a delicate dance, exchanging signals, counteroffers, and strategic intimations to gauge willingness and leverage without committing publicly, a process described by insiders as negotiation chess at the highest level, where each move is scrutinized for hidden intentions and potential consequences. Analysts speculate that the Browns front office is considering not just the immediate talent infusion, but also Burrow's leadership qualities, durability, and ability to inspire a locker room hungry for identity and stability, while Bengals executives are reportedly evaluating the trade from the lens of succession planning, team culture, and maximizing returns without alienating the fan base. Rumors indicate that scouts are re-evaluating positional depth, offensive schemes, and developmental trajectories, trying to anticipate how a quarterback like Burrow would integrate, adapt, and elevate team performance, while agents are simultaneously calculating financial outcomes, bonuses, and incentives that could sway the balance. Social media trends suggest that fans are participating in collective storytelling, generating hype videos, mock trades, and endless what-if scenarios, contributing to a modern folklore around the trade that blends speculation, analysis, and emotion into a narrative that feels immediate and immersive, capturing the attention of anyone with even a casual interest in football and reinforcing the idea that this could be a defining moment for both franchises, potentially shaping their identities and fortunes for years to come. Thanks for riding with us on another Browns Blitz. If you liked the video, share it with a fellow fan, hit subscribe, and ring that bell so you're always part of the Dawg Pound conversation. Go Browns!